I honestly don't know what happened to them at the lab. And I just try to not think about it, honestly. Or else I'd just be a crying mush person all the time.
We don't focus on their past. We know that that is the majority of their backgrounds. What we're focusing on now is what their futures are.
It's a challenge to look past what they do and view them as another human being that, in their opinion, what they're doing is necessary. And in my opinion, what we're doing is necessary. And finding that compromise and that willingness to build a relationship together and do what's best for the animals once they're done can be challenging.
In fiscal year 2023, U.S. labs used over 774,000 animals in research, according to the USDA. That number only includes species protected by the Animal Welfare Act, not rats, mice, or birds bred specifically for research. While there are some industry shifts away from animal testing, it's still widely used across public and private research, from pharmaceuticals and cosmetics to chemical safety and medical training. And a lot of it is taxpayer funded. The National Institutes of Health spends around $5.5 billion a year on animal research, covering everything from drug testing to general studies involving animals. When testing ends, many are euthanized, unless a facility like Kindness Ranch steps in.
That's Snow. He discovered the couch a couple days ago and he loves it. So in the lab, all they know is a small area, probably concrete or linoleum or shavings. When they first get here, it's kind of a mess, like the first 2 or 3 days, because they're not used to going outside to go potty. They don't know what blankets are. They don't know what anything is, actually. I live in the same house, or we call them a yurt, with the dogs. My area where I live is sectioned off, and then I share the kitchen with the dogs so that they can get used to the noises that a normal house would have, so that it would be easier to adopt them out.
Each animal that Kindness Ranch takes in arrives with varying levels of detail about the research they were involved in, depending on what the lab is willing to share. So Bridget keeps a close eye on every dog in her care.
We don't know what triggers them, actually. I had an adopter. She was a high school teacher, a science teacher. And during the school year, her dog, when she came home from work, would just bark, growl at her, like kind of aggressively. And in the summer, she wouldn't. And then she figured out because she was wearing a white lab coat. So that's why there's different behavioral issues. And it depends on the personality of the dog. See, like he's having an issue. It's okay, buddy. What's up? What's wrong? You're gonna be next. He might have a neurological issue, although it's not confirmed by the vet or anything, but he's acting a lot different than any other dogs we ever have. But Ash is part of a group that came 2 groups ago, and he's the only one left from that group. And he has a big different personality. He has a lot of triggers, I guess you could say, a lot of PTSD. I mean, I don't know if he's upset or, sometimes when dogs are playing and they chase each other, beagles will make that baying sound. He might just be trying to figure out life. There he goes again. What's going on? And there is one of the labs that we get dogs from that they debark them. And that could be why his bark sounds so weird. Maybe he was debarked. We don't know what causes it, really. Sometimes we're just standing here and he just goes off. But like these two, it's the same. We're doing the same stuff, same noises, same everything, and these two are just fine by it.
Kindness Ranch is home to 122 animals. A majority of them are former research animals, dogs and cats who become adoptable once they're ready for a new start, and farm animals who will permanently retire here. Their histories bring challenges and bittersweet rewards as the ranch works to provide a sanctuary for as many retired research animals as possible.
Horses need to run free. Pigs need to be able to go outside and root around in the dirt, and dogs need to dog and cats need to cat. So we have to allow them the exposure that they need in order to thrive. In the last year, our operating budget was $2.3 million. We're proud of the fact that 61% of all of our donations went to direct animal care, and the rest went all to fundraising, outreach, and development.
The ranch's most common intake is beagles, the most prevalent dog breed in research.
Their size means that you can house lots of them in one area. Their inherent trust, you can do multiple blood draws a day and restrain them, and afterwards they'll still come back to you as though to look for forgiveness. We think it's kind of cute, but this is also kind of a comfort zone for them because it's how they're held being moved around in the facilities. This one facility will never tell us, but they were given drugs and then had multiple blood draws daily to monitor the levels of the drugs in their system. I hate thinking about it because especially this group of dogs, if we held them upside down and they squirmed and fought, if they would have done that in the lab, there's a good chance they would have been euthanized because of how unsafe it would be to get the blood out of them.
John's job is to arrange the release of animals from research facilities in the U.S. and even internationally. In the last 5 years, the ranch has adopted out over 1,000 companions. It all starts by taking them in at little to no cost to the labs.
One facility told me that it cost an average of $5 per dog to euthanize them, as opposed to $160 for vaccinations and travel certificates to send them to a facility like ours. I have to be able to gain their trust by not stating where the animals came from. Many facilities don't even want us to mention the state that we're picking up the animals from, let alone the testing. A lot of dogs will come in with a mild seizure history because of their exposure to the pharmaceuticals and the research that they were in. With a good diet, no more drugs being pumped through their system, and time to decompress and just forget about the past, I'd say 98% never have to go on to having seizure medications or anything like that.
The ranch gained national recognition for helping place 4,000 beagles bred for research after a Virginia facility was shut down in 2022.
Senator William Stanley of Virginia, when I met with him during the in vivo release of 4,000 beagles from a breeding facility, he asked me how I got so many dogs out of research facilities, and I told him that I just developed relationships with these places and they willingly gave them up. He kind of laughed and said, "So you dance with the devil?" And I kind of felt that that was an accurate description, because I don't have to like what these people do, but I do have to be able to have an adult conversation with them. Nice. Oh, you're all toasty, aren't you? You were just sucking up that sun, weren't you? These two pigs came to us from Southern California, where they were used in skin wound research. They were exposed to certain chemicals commonly used in cosmetics to look what prolonged exposure would do to their skin. Since they're hairless Yucatans, their skin reacts to a lot of those chemicals very similar to the way human skin would. So if you look along the side of her back here, you can see some of the scarring from chemical reactions. The pigs, goats, sheep, cows, horses, all of our agricultural animals, when we receive them, they will live out their life here, mostly because we never know what the long-term effects of their research are gonna present themselves as 15 years down the road. I was never made aware of the research that was done on him, but the lab is known for a lot of pharmaceutical. You're one of my favorites. I carried you out of the lab myself when you were smaller. One of the pigs that came in with him, her name was Sally. She passed away recently. She had a really bad outbreak of cysts and growths that just came out of nowhere. We don't know if it was directly related to the research that was in or not, but we suspect it. A lot of pigs are used in wound research. So like the Army, the Marines, Navy, Air Force, they have programs where they'll take pigs out onto the field and shoot them or cut them, and then allow emergency EMT personnel to go out and practice field dressing wounds. And obviously a lot of those animals don't make it out of that. There's a lot of other advocacy groups and organizations that will try and steer science away from animal testing. Somebody has to be in a position to take care of all of the animals that are already in the system. We have the opinion of the public and the keyboard warriors on social media that will always tell us that we're not doing enough. But we're trying to fulfill our mission, which is very unique and very specialized. And in my opinion, I don't think there's anybody that's doing it better than us.
You may not think about it, but pigs actually can get sunburn, so we want to make sure that they are protected from the sun. I'm the farm supervisor, so I oversee all of the farm animals that we have here, from the cows and llamas, the horses, the sheep and goats, and the pigs. We don't focus on their past. We know that that is the majority of their backgrounds. What we're focusing on now is what their futures are.
Working here, you learn that animals in general can offer you so much in a relationship. There are times in our society right now where maybe the nuclear family isn't quite as robust as it used to be, and so people are looking for anything that will give them some kind of a feeling of connection and of being loved. Sometimes having those animal connections is a very vital piece of our growth as humans.
Terry is one of the main people working with Haley, a skittish former PMU horse, which stands for pregnant mare urine. PMU facilities collect pregnant mare urine to extract hormones, which can be used to manufacture menopause treatments. Recently, she's had health problems, so staffers like Terry are prepping her to go to a Colorado facility, which will help diagnose her.
When I'm working with her, it's not about trying to make her a horse that we're going to jump up in a saddle or anything like that. This is just so she will feel safe. We want to be able to spend quality time with each of them and give them a little TLC and show them that even though there were some people who weren't necessarily the best to them, that is not our intention, and they should live out their lives here in comfort and peace.
One of the things that I'll always remember, about 4 years ago, I introduced myself to a testing facility outside of Houston, Texas. And they agreed to give us over 100 dogs, but it had to be all at once. The guy I was working with, I glanced over and he seemed really emotional. And I thought that it was because we were taking all of these dogs. When I asked him what he was thinking about, he said that he had to put his family dog down over his lunch break. And it was that brief humanizing moment, and to see that contrast between how he felt at the loss of his personal dog and how these 100+ beagles we were loading up were just a commodity. It was kind of an eye-opening experience for me, putting all political differences and personal opinions aside. Is the only way that I'll be able to connect with them on that level and develop the trust for them to realize that we're not out to hurt them, we're just out to get these animals into homes.
At the ranch, things are always changing. Their next mission? Picking up 22 dogs from the Gulf Coast. They're coming from a lab that, with the help of Kindness Ranch, has transitioned into a no-kill research facility that also has a socialization team for the dogs.
It's so easy to be against something. I could tell everybody that I'm against euthanasia and that they need to change their ways to appease me, but that doesn't get anything done. But then I have to figure out what I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of getting these animals retired from research facilities and into private homes. Our motto is from labs to labs. And we're not going to get these animals into homes if we're just simply against euthanasia. I'm for building relationships with these facilities and informing them that there's alternatives to euthanasia. And we can do it while still objecting to the practice of animal testing, but finding the one thing we agree on, and that euthanasia isn't required.